My beloved child, stop everything right now and listen. There is no delay, no accident, no background noise that matters more than what I'm about to tell you. I have moved heaven's attention toward you in this very moment because something sacred is about to shift in your life. I have delayed the announcement of angels, held back the unfolding of other divine plans, and silenced every distraction just so I could focus my voice on you. I've been waiting for this day, this breath, this very moment to make contact with your heart in a way that no one else can. This isn't just another day. This is the moment heaven leans in close, and you hear what you've been aching to hear for so long. I see how you've been standing in the middle of the battle, pretending to be fine while your heart was slowly unraveling behind the scenes. I see how you kept praying even when your voice cracked, even when you had no more strength, and that's why I made this divine appointment. Today is not an ordinary day, and you are not an ordinary person to me. I have watched your name echo through heaven's halls. Angels have spoken your name with reverence because of what you endured without complaining. You stayed when you wanted to run. You waited when you wanted to wait. You trusted me when all you had left was the memory of a promise. And now, child, the delay is breaking. The silence is shifting. The sky over you is about to split open with glory you didn't even dare to dream anymore. What I'm giving you is not a reward for perfection. It's a holy gift for obedience, a sacred surprise for a surrendered heart. This is personal. This is intimate. This is why your enemies couldn't destroy you and why time couldn't erase you, because I was saving something no one else could touch. I didn't allow your plans to succeed without me, because I didn't want you to miss what only I could give you. And now the heavens are in position, and the hour has come. The same hands that held you in the midnight hour are the hands that now open this holy door. I have something special for you today, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. And the reason I'm telling you first is because this time, no one will be able to take credit for what I'm about to do in your life. No one will be able to say they opened this door for you. No one will say they gave you this platform, this breakthrough, this miracle. It's going to have my fingerprints all over it. The timing will be so precise, the alignment so exact, the results so breathtaking that it will silence every lie spoken over your life. This is the kind of miracle that not only blesses you, but exposes the favor I've hidden on your life all along. And listen closely. I'm not done. What I have for you today is just the beginning of the unveiling. It's the start of a supernatural sequence I've been writing behind the scenes while you thought I was silent. So don't move. Don't doubt. Don't shrink. Don't scroll past this message like it's another comforting word. This is not just comfort. This is confirmation. And this confirmation will collide with demonstration. It will touch your finances, your future, your emotions, your identity, because I'm not giving you a small reminder of my love. I'm giving you a manifestation of my promise. I'm giving you the tangible proof that I never forgot, never abandoned, never changed my mind about you. Even when you thought I moved on to bless others, I was waiting for the fullness of time to give you something special, something that could only be released today, at this very moment, when your heart is ready to carry it. That's why the warfare increased. That's why the waiting stretched. Because the weight of this gift is holy. And now, the weight of glory will be heavier than the burden you carried to get here. You didn't realize it then, but every tear was watering ground I destined to bloom. Every time you knelt in silence while others celebrated loud victories, I was taking note. I was present in your quiet moments of aching hope when your prayers felt unanswered and your faith was tested in the unseen. You stayed, not because it was easy, but because you couldn't walk away from me. And because of that, what I reserved for you has finally reached the appointed hour. I didn't just hear your voice echo in prayer. I felt the ache behind every unspoken sentence. I saw how you smiled while carrying invisible heaviness. I watched how you showed grace when you were misunderstood. I watched how you held on to me with trembling hands while others dropped their promises and ran toward temporary escapes. I saw how your loyalty to my name cost you companionship, comfort, and clarity. But hear me. Not 1 second of your waiting was wasted. Every moment you remain faithful in the fog is now being honored in the unveiling. What I am about to release was designed specifically for your life, for your timeline, for your DNA. It cannot be transferred, delayed, diluted, or denied. What I've prepared will not resemble anything you've seen around you, because what you endured was unlike anything they ever carried. You are not being paid back for your pain. You are being accelerated into fulfillment because you were willing to keep walking without proof. You kept building when no applause came. You kept sowing when the soil looked dry. You kept believing when the evidence tried to betray your hope. That is why this moment holds power, because I crafted a breakthrough that fits only your fingerprint. No one else could wear this blessing. No one else could contain the volume of favor being poured right now. This isn't just the answer to one prayer. This is the culmination of years I stored up to release at once. I am not delivering pieces. I'm revealing a masterpiece. Your name has been etched into the scrolls of restoration, and the seal is now broken. And child, listen. I didn't forget the things you whispered to me when you had no audience, but the ceiling and your tears. I was there. And because you trusted me in the empty hallway of waiting, you're about to step into rooms you didn't even apply to enter. You're about to be called where others competed. You're about to be invited where others fought for attention. Not because you sought position, but because you kept your posture. Bowed before me, not the world. I am honoring the consistency of your heart. What's unfolding will not only shift your circumstances, it will rewrite the atmosphere around your life. People will notice the change and not know the cost. But I know how you held on. I know how you warred quietly, how you fasted with questions in your mind and faith in your spirit. I know how you praised me when the situation mocked your worship. And that's why the reward cannot be common. It had to be tailored, layered, and timed perfectly. I am not just repaying, I am revealing. And what I'm revealing cannot be mistaken for luck, coincidence, or man-made favor. This is divine justice for a life lived with humility and surrender. The date I bring it forth. The shift begins now. The winds are changing direction. The doors are not opening, they are being removed. What's yours is arriving without delay. What I promised is landing without disruption. And while others scramble to understand it, you will simply walk forward, not explaining, just receiving. I saw it. The exact moment when it would have been easier for you to turn your back and disappear. When the road felt deserted, and the people you thought would walk beside you began fading into silence, I watched you choose perseverance instead of escape. I saw the doors they shut, the shoulders they turned, and the ways they acted like your journey didn't matter. But I also saw what they never could. I saw the power of your decision to stay grounded even while your heart was breaking. I heard the noise in your mind trying to convince you to step away, to shut down, to run, to numb yourself with distractions. But instead, you chose endurance. And because you did, I commanded angels to write it down. Not your failure, not your hesitation, but your courage to remain anchored in me when every human option vanished. You didn't just keep going. You kept trusting when there was no applause, no clarity, no confirmation. That kind of loyalty doesn't vanish into the background of my kingdom. It gets noticed. It gets remembered. It gets rewarded. You weren't weak. You were being forged in divine fire that burns away what's temporary and reveals what's eternal. And now, what's being released over your life is not a random blessing. It's the weight of recognition from heaven itself. This moment is not about proving anything to the people who doubted you. It's about revealing everything I saw when they turned their heads. I saw your hands shaking but still lifted. I saw your eyes filled with tears, still looking toward me. I saw how you kept declaring faith over your life even when fear sat heavy in your chest. That's what I honor. Not loud declarations in the spotlight, but quiet obedience in the shadows. So now, I am calling forth a season that proves your strength wasn't wasted. You didn't perform for attention. You endured for destiny. And because you stayed, because you didn't withdraw from the purpose I placed inside of you, I'm unrolling scrolls of fulfillment that cannot be rewritten or revoked. You will not be defined by who left. You will be remembered for who you became when they did. Your growth wasn't interrupted. It was intensified. And now, the results of that growth will not be hidden. The garden you watered with silent tears is about to bloom so visibly that even those who distance themselves will have to admit something supernatural happened to you. They will not recognize you because you didn't remain the same. And that's by design. I didn't allow you to remain stagnant when others gave up. I stretched you in the secret place so that I could elevate you in the open. Don't regret their departure. Don't grieve over the empty seats. I cleared the room to make space for the unveiling I'm about to perform in your life. If they had stayed, they would have tried to share the glory. But this story belongs to me and you. No interruptions, no confusion. And now, with all of heaven as witness, I am lifting the cover. The reward for your unseen endurance is arriving with force, precision, and unstoppable favor. This is the fulfillment that waited for your yes. And now that the yes have been tested, it is being multiplied. I am not just giving you what was delayed. I'm releasing what was stored up, compounded, and held back for this exact moment. Because you didn't walk away, because you remained, because you chose faith over comfort, you're stepping into what others forfeited. You're being handed keys to places you didn't chase, access to rooms you never forced open. Not by striving, but by staying. Not by performance, but by perseverance. And this is only the beginning of what I will reveal next. Every step you took, even when it felt aimless, was a thread woven into a greater design I never stopped stitching. You thought you were just walking through wilderness, but I was building a sanctuary within your spirit. I know there were days you questioned if your journey even mattered, if you were just moving in circles with no destination in sight. But in my realm, not one step is wasted, not one detour is without purpose. What you called delays were actually divine training grounds. What seemed like isolation was actually me clearing the noise so I could shape you in stillness. While you wrestled with silence, I was sculpting a new authority within you, an authority that can't be faked, borrowed, or rushed. You've gained something far more precious than answers. You've gained weight in the spirit. You've grown roots no storm can rip out. You've learned how to walk by knowing, not seeing, and that's the kind of strength I trust with the sacred. I never intended to leave you wondering forever. But I had to strip the path of distraction so that when I unveiled what I was preparing, your heart would be ready to hold it. And now, here we are. The long walk was implemented with preparation. You were being trained to carry what others would collapse under. You've been stretched, not to break you, but to make room for the magnitude of what I'm revealing. And listen to me. What I'm about to bring into your life could not have survived if I gave it to you too early. If I had released it while you were still clinging to the approval of others, or distracted by things not assigned to you, it would have unraveled. That's why I hid you for a time. That's why I took you through territory where others didn't walk with you. Because I wasn't just building your stamina. I was refining your discernment. And now you can tell the difference between what glitters and what carries eternal weight. Now you can recognize my voice without second guessing. Now your eyes are trained to spot divine timing even when nothing around you confirms it. This unveiling is not flashy. It's holy. It's not just a moment of celebration. It's a moment of recognition. Heaven is announcing that the one who didn't quit has stepped into the season designed from the beginning of time. And because you didn't abandon the process, I'm not just unveiling something new. I'm unveiling who you've become. The world will seize a result, but I see the resilience. They'll see the promise, but I see the perseverance that brought you here. And child, what you carry now is rare. You're not the same person who started this walk. You've been recalibrated. Your posture has changed. Your alliance has shifted. And now, you are ready to move forward not just with blessing, but with the mantle to steward it. You're not just receiving. You're being entrusted. You didn't climb here. You were cultivated. I didn't rush the process because the vessel had to match the glory. And you do. You match what's being released, You reflect what I've poured into your heart in private. The unveiling will not feel forced. It will feel familiar. Because I've been whispering this to your spirit long before your surroundings started to change. The unveiling isn't only about what I'm showing others, it's about what I'm showing you about yourself. This is the confirmation you didn't even know how to pray for, the kind that makes sense of the sorrow, the silence, and the seasons of feeling forgotten. But I never forgot. I was just forming something sacred. And what's sacred is never rushed. But now, the hour has arrived, and you are about to walk into something that looks nothing like what you left behind. I waited until now because not everyone could be trusted with what I'm handing you in this exact moment. This isn't a gift made of temporary applause or surface-level recognition. This is legacy-altering, destiny-defining, atmosphere-shifting release, and only those who learned how to hear me in the quiet could carry it without contamination. You didn't demand signs, but you leaned on every whisper. You didn't rush me, though your heart often trembled with longing. You didn't manufacture your own outcome. You surrendered to my timing, even when you didn't understand it. That kind of trust is rare, child. That kind of faith attracts heaven's full attention. You didn't just wait, you waited without manipulation, without shortcuts, without forcing anything into place. That's why your hands are now strong enough to hold something pure, something weighty, something eternal. If I had given this to you earlier, you might have doubted its origin. You might have questioned whether it was truly me or the result of your own effort. But now, you'll have no doubt. This has my fingerprint, my timing, and my glory attached. What's coming will not be tied to your striving. It will be proof of my sovereignty. And child, listen closely. No one can take this from you, because it was never produced by man. It wasn't earned by performance. It was prepared for your spirit long before you knew how to carry it. I was shaping your inner posture when others thought nothing was happening. I was refining your capacity when even you questioned your purpose. This is why you had to walk through the silence, so your hearing would be sharp when my voice came through clearly. You didn't need noise to believe. You didn't need fireworks to remain faithful. And now, because of that posture, I am entrusting you with something sacred, something others would mishandle, something I reserved for the one who didn't trade trust for speed. Your patience positioned you. Your surrender shaped you. Your devotion in the dry place gave birth to this moment of divine fullness. What I'm placing in your life is not just a single answered prayer. It's a door into rooms of restoration that have been sealed until now. You are entering a realm of fulfillment that isn't based on talent, connection, or human intervention. It's based on alignment. You aligned with me even when your emotions wanted to run the other way. You kept your spirit bowed, even when your flesh wanted clarity. You are not here by chance. You were drawn by faith, not forced by fear. And that is why this moment carries so much weight. What I'm placing in your hands can't be corrupted, because your heart was purified in the waiting. What you carry now will outlive trends, outlast seasons, and overcome resistance, because it is rooted in obedience. You didn't fight your way here. You followed me here. You walked, step by step, even when I only revealed one stone at a time. You believed it before you saw it. And now, you're not just seeing, you're stepping in. Don't doubt this. Don't shrink back. Don't downplay the sacred nature of this release. I didn't call you to this moment so you could question whether you're worthy. I brought you here because I know you're ready. You're not just receiving an answer, you're becoming the evidence. Evidence that trusting me in silence was never a mistake. Evidence that faith in the dark leads to light no man can dim. Evidence that my promises outlive delay and overpower discouragement. And as I place this in your hands, understand, it's not only for you. It's for those who watched you stay faithful. It's for those who thought obedience was pointless. Through your life, I will prove that trusting me in the unseen always leads to overflow. You've made it through the proving ground. And now, I release what only surrender could unlock. I know how easy it is to scan your surroundings, hoping for a sign, searching faces for agreement, listening for human words that will validate what your spirit already senses. But this moment wasn't designed for external applause. This moment is holy. And what I'm releasing into your life now doesn't require anyone's endorsement, approval, or recognition. If you're still waiting for confirmation from the crowd, you'll miss what I'm pouring directly into your soul. Don't let the silence of others confuse the certainty of what I'm doing. I'm not speaking through their mouths. I'm releasing truth through my presence. You've been conditioned to think someone else's response determines whether something is real, but not this time. Not with what I'm building inside of you. You don't need a second opinion on something I authored with my own hand. Look up, not out. Look higher, not wider. This elevation is not democratic, it's divine. It was never meant to be explained to everyone around you. I'm doing something so intimate, so precise, so tailored for your heart that only your spirit can interpret it. This shift will not come with claps or fanfare. It will come in the quiet confirmation of my glory pressing against your chest, in the sudden peace that settles your racing thoughts, in the invisible wind that shifts your atmosphere without notice. If you keep waiting for someone else to see what I've already shown you, you'll delay the steps I've called you to take. And you don't have time for hesitation anymore. You don't have the luxury of waiting for them to catch up before you obey. This isn't about consensus. This is about confidence in my voice. What you're sensing is real. What you're carrying is sacred. What you're stepping into is irreversible. And I don't need the world to witness it for it to be valid. I already signed it in heaven. And that's more than enough. This assignment will make some uncomfortable, because it wasn't revealed to them. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. That doesn't mean you're imagining things. That doesn't mean you need to explain, defend, or reduce what I'm doing just to make it palatable. Some will misunderstand your peace. Others will question your direction. But that is not your burden to carry. I didn't ask you to be understood. I asked you to be obedient. And that means anchoring yourself in me, not in their reactions. You have outgrown the need for earthly reassurance. Your spirit has matured beyond dependency on shallow support. And that's why I'm taking you into places where only my presence can sustain you. The reason it's been quiet around you is because I've been tuning your ears to hear me more clearly. This silence wasn't abandonment, it was alignment. I've been turning down the volume of voices that once confused you, so that my whisper could become your compass. And now that you're attuned, now that you've stopped chasing signs and started listening from within, I'm pouring direction that cannot be shaken. You'll no longer need to ask, is this really you? Because you'll feel the weight of my hand guiding you. You'll no longer hesitate, looking left and right. You'll move with certainty, because you'll know I'm the one leading. And as you lift your eyes, as you look up instead of around, I'll begin showing you what was hidden. I'll begin revealing blueprints that weren't meant for mass consumption. I'll begin unfolding a story so full of my fingerprints that even those who doubted you will have no words. Don't search the horizon for answers that only descend from heaven. Don't depend on reactions to validate revelation. Look up. Stay fixed. Keep your gaze locked on me, because what I'm sending can only be seen from that vantage point. I'm not just giving you insight. I'm giving you clarity. Not through people, but through presence. And once you receive this, everything else will shift before your eyes open today. Heaven was already moving. While you were asleep, I was commanding what you couldn't comprehend. I dispatched warriors in white to walk the very paths your feet would touch, to sweep away traps set in silence, to dismantle assignments that were plotted against you while you rested. You didn't feel the tension that was planned for your morning because I dissolved it before sunrise. You didn't know the battles that were designed to unravel you before noon because I canceled their impact at dawn. Child, I don't just walk beside you. I go before you. I don't merely react to what happens. I govern what never even gets to happen. My hand has been removing blockades, routing spiritual interference, and subduing chaos long before you had the strength to lift a single prayer today. That's the depth of my care. I prepare what you don't perceive. And I don't just send angels as spectators. I released them as executors of my word. Where the enemy hoped to inject confusion, they established clarity. Where weariness tried to form around your heart, they released peace that can't be explained. Where discouragement stood waiting on the threshold, they built an invisible wall of fire to keep it out. And you wondered why this morning felt unusually still. It's because the assignments sent against you were intercepted in the invisible realm. Not everything that was designed to hurt you made it to your doorstep. That's why you must never evaluate my faithfulness only by what you see, because so much of my protection looks like absence when it's really intervention. I don't always allow you to witness the battle, because I want you to live in the assurance of victory, not in the fear of opposition. I've stationed reinforcement where you didn't know you were vulnerable. I've guarded doorways that haven't even opened yet. I've marked locations you've never stepped into, declaring ahead of time, "This one belongs to my child. Touch not." And when you walk today, you're not walking into uncertainty. You're stepping into territory that's already been secured. There are places you'll enter that feel unusually peaceful. That's because I've already cleansed the atmosphere. There are conversations that will flow with surprising grace. That's because I've removed the spirit of division before it could manifest. There are connections being orchestrated with surgical precision, not because you pursued them, but because I assigned angels to weave divine intersections on your behalf. I'm not asking you to fight for what I've already conquered. I'm asking you to walk with the confidence of someone surrounded by heaven's strategy. You're not alone, and you never were. Even in the hours where you felt abandoned, unseen, forgotten, I was deploying heavenly hosts to ensure you wouldn't be destroyed. They didn't just arrive today, they've been with you all along. But this morning, I gave them new orders. I expanded their reach. I increased their visibility. Not so you would fear what's coming, but so you would recognize how completely covered you are. The pressure that suddenly lifted, that wasn't a coincidence. That was a cleared path. The conversation that didn't go as badly as you expected, that was a divine interference. The mood shift that caused peace to return where chaos tried to camp, that was a holy atmosphere reset. You don't need to track what the angels are doing. You just need to walk forward knowing they've already done it. I handle what you cannot see so that your focus remains on me, not on what lurks in shadows. And as this day unfolds, you will feel the fruit of invisible victories. You'll move without dread. You'll breathe without heaviness. You will speak without fear. And when you wonder why it feels so light, remember, it's not because the road was easy. It's because I made it clear before you ever took your first step. There were moments when the stillness made you question everything, not just my timing, but even your own ability to hear me. You looked around and saw others stepping into breakthroughs while you waited in what felt like a hallway with no doors. You wondered if I changed my mind, if I overlooked your obedience, if perhaps your faith wasn't loud enough to reach me. But I need you to understand now, with complete certainty, I was never ignoring you. I was refining something so exact, so delicate, so massive in consequence, that rushing it would have broken what I was building for you. Some miracles must be protected from premature arrival because they are too heavy to survive outside their appointed time. You see, when I prepare a harvest that carries generational weight, I do not compromise by releasing it into an unready atmosphere. I'm not in the business of delivering fragile promises into chaotic timing. What I orchestrated for your life wasn't late. It was being shielded from spiritual and emotional conditions that would have mishandled it. I wasn't withholding to hurt you. I was holding it back because I care too deeply to see your destiny warped by misalignment. You asked me to be fast, but I chose to be perfect. You asked me to open the door quickly, but I was making sure that once it opened, it would never have to close again. And now, what once felt like delay will begin to feel like precision. It will all make sense. You'll begin to understand why certain connections faded, why specific paths went cold, why some opportunities you desperately wanted slipped through your hands. You didn't fail. I was filtering. I was removing everything that didn't have the capacity to support what I was about to deliver. You didn't lose those moments. I redirected them so they wouldn't damage your foundation. Because, child, if I had given you what you were asking for back then, it would have looked like a blessing, but it would have carried unseen weight that could have fractured your peace. I never wanted to give you something that would look like a miracle but feel like a burden. That's why I waited. I watched your posture while you waited. I saw how you kept worshiping through unanswered prayers. I saw how you resisted bitterness even when confusion clouded your clarity. And that posture, that is what has brought us to this moment. The fullness of time has arrived, not because you begged, not because you forced, but because you endured. You are now standing in a divine intersection where preparation meets manifestation. A miracle didn't change, you did. And now, what once would have overwhelmed you will now empower you. What once would have felt too big to carry will now fit within your anointing. Because you've expanded. Because you've matured. Because you've been made strong enough to hold what I am placing within your reach. I've taken what seemed paused and infused it with momentum that will now outpace every moment of stagnation. You will move in rhythms that confuse those who thought you were falling behind. They won't understand how quickly things shift for you now, but you will. You'll know it wasn't luck. You'll know it wasn't a sudden turn. You'll know it was the unfolding of a miracle that had been simmering in my presence all along. This isn't rushed success, this is seasoned fulfillment. And it will not come with exhaustion. It will not bring sorrow. It will not steal your peace. It will fit like it was always meant for you, because it was. So stop replaying what didn't happen when you thought it should. Stop analyzing timelines that weren't yours to begin with. You haven't been denied. You've been preserved. You haven't been forgotten. You've been positioned. And now, what was once hidden behind time is being revealed by my own hand, and it's yours to receive long before your struggle had a name, long before the situation even formed against you. I had already written your name into the outcome. You didn't stumble into this moment by chance. You were chosen for it, marked for it, predestined to walk in it. While the world saw chaos forming, I saw destiny unfolding. Every time you thought the battle caught you by surprise, you were unaware that I had already sealed a victory with your name engraved into its foundation. You didn't earn it with striving. You didn't manipulate your way into it. You didn't convince me with eloquent prayers. You were already included. Your name was whispered through the heavens while others were busy trying to prove their worth. I wasn't waiting to see if you'd be good enough. I was protecting what had your identity written into its structure since the beginning. And yes, I saw the war coming. I saw the pressure you'd endure. I saw the nights when you wouldn't know whether to keep hoping or to give up. But even then, I did not remove your name from the inheritance I prepared. I didn't let your weakness disqualify you. I didn't let your moments of questioning cancel what I had designed. Because this blessing, this portion, this outpouring, this release, is not about perfection. It's about positioning. And you've been in the right posture all along, even when you didn't feel like it. Even in your lowest valley, you still turned your face toward me. Even in the confusion, you whispered my name with sincerity. That is why the blessing never expired. It's why the promise didn't die when the pain came. You were chosen for this before the storm ever began howling. You were written into the solution before the problem took form. You may have seen the opposition first, but I authored the conclusion long before the conflict ever touched your life. I knew which wounds you'd survive. I knew which betrayals you'd outlast. I knew which losses would try to crush you. And I knew, even when it felt like too much, that you'd still be standing here, still open, still believing. That is why this moment is yours. This isn't compensation. This is completion. You're not receiving leftovers. You're stepping into what was preserved, untouched, and waiting for your arrival. Others may have tried to grasp it. Some may have ended it. But they were never appointed to carry what only your spirit was shaped to hold. I hid it from them not to punish them, but to protect the intimacy of this moment. What I crafted for you was made to be shared broadly. It's a fulfillment tailored around the battles you didn't broadcast, the endurance you didn't advertise. This is between you and me. And now, what I set aside, with your name on it, is being released in full measure. It will not be watered down. It will not be delayed further. It will not be redirected. Because I am faithful to finish what I began, and I began this blessing with your name embedded deep within its center. No detour could erase it. No voice could cancel it. No mistake could dislodge it. Even when you thought you disqualified yourself, I saw deeper than your doubt. I saw your desire. And that desire, that longing for my will, is what kept your name on the promise. So when it arrives, and it will, don't wonder if it belongs to you. Don't question if it's too good. Don't hesitate when the doors swing wide and the oil begins to flow. This isn't someone else's portion that landed in your lap. This isn't a consolation prize. This is fulfillment. This is a sealed appointment finally manifesting. And child, I never miss what I reserve. I never lose track of the one I've chosen. And I never forget a name that was spoken in surrender. Not once I saw how you carried the weight of closed doors like failure, how you mourned opportunities that vanished without warning, how you silently questioned if you were simply not enough. Every time someone walked away, every time the offer dissolved, every time the road abruptly shifted, you felt the sting of being turned away. But what you called rejection, I was using as divine architecture. I wasn't casting you aside. I was clearing your path. I was removing what would have derailed the very glory I was building in secret. You weren't dismissed, you were rerouted. Not one detour was meaningless. Not one no with a mistake. I knew what you couldn't see. I knew that what appeared golden from the outside was hollow on the inside. I knew that aligning with certain people, places, or positions would cost you more than they would ever give. I knew their acceptance would have come with invisible chains. So I allowed what looked like loss to actually be preservation. You wept over missed moments, not realizing I was shielding you from hidden agendas. And now, as things start to come together, you look back and see that none of it was wasted. You weren't delayed, you were directed. You weren't abandoned, you were being placed. I had to disconnect you from certain environments so that your discernment could be sharpened. I had to protect your heart from attachments that would have quietly weakened your voice. I had to intervene when your own desire was pulling you toward destruction dressed as opportunity. That's why it felt so confusing, because the removal came disguised as rejection. But the truth is, I honored you by not letting temporary connections sabotage eternal assignments. I spared you from blending into places you were never called to belong. If I had given you what you asked for, you would have settled for less than what you were designed to carry. And I love you too much to let you live beneath the fullness of your design. What you were chasing could not sustain the weight of the purpose inside you. So I blocked it. I closed the door. I let them walk away. I allowed the silence. And I knew it would break your heart, but I also knew it would lead you here, to this moment, where every broken path makes sense. Now you're beginning to feel it. Now the air is shifting. Now you can finally breathe again, because your spirit is arriving at the coordinates I prepared in advance. You didn't just survive the rejection, you were redirected into alignment. You didn't just lose, you were repositioned. You were never being punished. You were being reserved. Reserved for something real. Something lasting. Something you wouldn't have to beg for, earn, or chase. And now it's drawing near. What once hurt you is now about to highlight you. Because everything that didn't work out, everything that slipped through your hands, was meant to be temporary. It was never your final chapter. And now that the right time has come, you'll find what fits, what remains, what honors your journey. The relationships will be different. The atmosphere will feel lighter. The opportunities will feel tailor-made. Not because it's easier now, but because it's finally right. You're not stepping into a replacement. You're walking into the original plan. The one I preserved through the fire. The one I've kept in waiting while I worked on your heart. the one that was never meant for anyone else. So release your grief over the things that didn't last. Let go of the names that forgot you, the rooms that excluded you, the decisions that felt like betrayal. None of them were strong enough to rewrite what I authored. You're not behind. You're not less. You're not broken. You're simply now in the place where all things begin to align. You're standing in the very spot rejection was meant to deliver you to, and I have only just begun. There were moments when my silence sounded like abandonment, when every delay seemed like a dismissal, when every pause felt like punishment, but none of that was true. Each time you heard not yet and felt your hope begin to sink, I was actually speaking a greater mercy over your life. I wasn't withholding good things from you. I was building something so precise that premature access would have distorted it. You see, when I said not yet, it wasn't a rejection. It was a strategy. You thought I was denying you, but I was preserving the purity of your promise. I couldn't let the answer arrive when your surroundings were still unstable. I couldn't release the blessing when the foundation wasn't ready to support the weight. I watched you brace yourself each time things didn't unfold, and while others may have misinterpreted that pause, I knew it was sacred. I knew that timing was everything. And I need you to understand this now more than ever. The yes that is approaching your life is not a response to your striving. It is the fulfillment of your surrender. When you chose to trust me even when you didn't understand the hold-up, you unlocked something heaven cannot ignore. Your willingness to wait with humility has released a wave of favor that no human hand can interfere with. You weren't waiting in vain. I was preparing the promise to meet you at full maturity. You were never being punished. I was simply orchestrating conditions that would protect what's coming. Because what I'm about to do in your life requires alignment, not just availability. I had to move certain pieces into place. I had to make sure the environment matched the magnitude of the assignment. And now, the yes that is forming is not a recycled opportunity. It's the original design finally breathing into your timeline. This will not look like the things you tried to force before. This will feel peaceful, not pressured. This will flow without striving. This will not carry the anxiety that came with doors you attempted to push open yourself. Because this yes, the one that's coming into view now, is not manufactured. It's ordained. It's holy. And it's being delivered with the force of everything I promised you in the quiet. That's why it had to take time. You were being strengthened for what I was crafting. You were being matured for what I was molding. I had to stretch your capacity so you wouldn't sabotage the blessing once it arrived. And I know, there were nights when you felt passed over. There were seasons where it seemed like everyone else was being chosen, promoted, celebrated. But I wasn't ignoring you. I was insulating you. I was guarding your destiny from interference, from comparison, from compromise. Because I never wanted your yes to come at the cost of your peace. And now, look again, can you sense it? The winds are shifting. The atmosphere is changing. The very thing that once eluded you is now beginning to pursue you. The doors you once knocked on with trembling hope are opening without force. This time, the blessing won't feel like a burden. This time, the provision won't leave you empty. This time, the miracle won't come with strings. You've outgrown the impatience that once tried to rush me. And now you walk in trust. Now you know I wasn't punishing. I was pruning. I was pruning distractions, ego, fear, and noise, all so that your yes would be heard in a room that was quiet enough to receive it. And when I say yes, no one can say no. When I say now, everything that resisted you will fall into alignment. The gates are opening. The timing is turning. The answers are arriving, not late, but right on schedule. And this time, when you walk into the fulfillment, you'll walk without apology, without hesitation, without fear, because you will know this yes was written with your name from the very beginning. The magnitude of what you endured has not been fully visible to the world, but I saw every flame that surrounded you, every hidden blaze that threatened to consume you when no one else even noticed the smoke. You didn't announce your agony. You didn't parade your pain. You carried it with grace while your inner world felt like it was being torn apart. And while others celebrated shallow victories, you were surviving battles that would have crushed those who seemed stronger from the outside. You walked through emotional infernos, spiritual testing grounds, relational betrayals, and storms so intense that your own reflection began to feel like a stranger. And yet, here you are, not only standing but still reaching for me. That alone speaks volumes. You didn't fold. You didn't retreat. You didn't trade your calling for comfort. You stayed, even when everything in you screamed to escape. You persevered through rejection that tried to redefine your worth, through confusion that attempted to silence your clarity, through fear that pretended to be reality. You were surrounded by fire, but the fire didn't win. Because I was there, standing with you in the middle of it. I didn't remove the flames. I used them to refine what was already inside of you. I didn't stop the heat. I increased your resilience. And now, what others tried to survive with shortcuts, you have conquered through surrender. That's why you carry something they can't replicate. You've been forged. You've been pressed but not crushed. You've been wounded but not wasted. I didn't allow the fire to take your life. I allowed it to take what could no longer remain. And now, what is left is pure, stable, unshakable. You are not fragile anymore. The tears you wept did not weaken you. They washed away illusions. The nights you laid awake, wrestling, were not signs of doubt. They were moments of sacred transformation. You emerged from that fire with discernment sharper than before. Your perception has shifted. You no longer crave what once distracted you. You no longer chase what once defined you. That is the gift of the fire. It burns away what you thought you needed so that you can finally carry only what I intended. And the beauty of this transformation is that no one can take credit for it but me. Because I'm the one who stood in the center of the flames with you. I didn't watch from a distance. I didn't wait until it was over to come close. I stepped in, shielded your soul, and whispered strength into your bones when your own voice had gone quiet. That's why the fire didn't kill you. That's why you didn't lose your mind. That's why you didn't collapse under the weight. I carried you. I covered you. And now, you carry a fire of your own. Not one that destroys, but one that reveals. A fire of purpose. A fire of wisdom. A fire of compassion for others still walking through their flames. You are no longer who you were before the furnace. And what I'm placing before you now is not a random blessing. It's a reward for the path you did abandon. There were easier routes, but you chose the one that cost you comfort. You chose the path that didn't make sense, because it kept you close to me. And that's why you are ready for what others can't explain. When they wonder why doors open for you, why peace follows you, why breakthroughs chase you, remember this: it's not favor without fire. It's favor forged by fire. They didn't see what you walked through. They didn't feel what tried to break you. But I did. And that's why I'm about to release what cannot be copied, duplicated, or denied. You're not being elevated by accident. You're being recognized for surviving what was never meant to be survivable. And now, I am leading you into a season that reflects the strength you gained when no one else was watching. You believed you were standing on your own when the weight became unbearable, when your strength felt drained, when your emotions could no longer carry the day. But child, not one moment of that pressure was carried by you alone. The reason you didn't collapse wasn't because you were strong enough. It was because I was surrounding you with a strength you didn't realize was mine. You didn't recognize it at the time, but I had my hand beneath every breath you struggled to take. I had my presence wrapped around you like a shield, steadying your mind when the noise became deafening, anchoring your spirit when your surroundings tried to shake you loose. You thought your endurance was your own doing, but you were being lifted. You were not surviving on your willpower. You were surviving because I was pouring supernatural reinforcement into your weakness. You didn't manufacture that peace. I delivered it. You didn't engineer that clarity. I whispered it. You didn't create that breakthrough moment in the middle of despair. I brought it into the darkness and set it beside you until you noticed. That's how close I've been. You thought I had stepped away when everything felt too quiet, but it was in that silence that I was holding you most tightly. I wasn't absent. I was just working in ways you hadn't yet learned to see. I don't always announce myself with thunder and flashes of glory. Sometimes, I arrive as stability, a stillness that doesn't make sense in the middle of your pain. That was me. When you sat on the edge of quitting and found just enough resolve to stand one more time, that was me. When you couldn't articulate what you were feeling but still knew you weren't forsaken, that was me. You didn't climb out of that valley alone. You were being carried. The trembling courage, that quiet persistence, that flicker of hope that kept reappearing when you were sure you had none left, all of it came from me. I loaned you my strength while I rebuilt your own. I planted new resilience within you every time you thought you had reached your end. And now, what others will see in your life as unshakable faith is actually the evidence of our hidden moments together, when I held you close while everything else fell apart. This strength isn't something you need to protect or prove. It's not performance. It's not pressure. It's presence. My presence. You've been clothed in it. And now, that strength is becoming visible. Now you're noticing it too. The way you respond differently. The way you discern quicker. The way peace no longer feels out of reach. That's because the strength I poured into you in your lowest place is now rising to the surface. It's no longer hidden. It's no longer subtle. It's becoming your identity, not because you are powerful in yourself, but because you've learned to live from the power that flows through me. And now, because of that strength, you're going to walk into situations that once would have broken you, and you'll carry peace instead of panic. You'll face conversations that once unraveled your confidence, and you'll speak with clarity and conviction. You'll enter environments that once made you shrink, and you'll stand tall, not with pride, but with purpose. This is what happens when you've been held by me in secret. The public evidence begins to follow you. It's not a show. It's not a performance. It's a fragrance. A residue of the glory that covered you when you couldn't even lift your head. And now, that same glory is going ahead of you. That same strength is unlocking doors. That same presence is attracting what was always meant to find you. And as you walk, remember, you never stood alone. And you never will. You didn't understand it while you were walking through it. But the season where you felt most disconnected wasn't a curse, it was a divine calling inward. When the noise around you faded, when conversations dried up, when familiar faces suddenly became distant or unavailable, you assumed you were being isolated because something was wrong with you. But I was the one drawing the boundaries tighter. I wasn't punishing you, I was positioning you. I wasn't removing people to cause you pain. I was eliminating interference so you could finally hear me without filters. I saw how your heart longed to be seen, how you searched for reassurance, how you waited for someone to truly understand the weight you were carrying. But I needed to become the one you ran to before anyone else could try to fill the gap. You were created for connection, yes, but first with me. Not with opinions, not with approval, not with human affirmation that fluctuates with seasons. I didn't want to compete with the voices around you. So I removed the stage. I quieted the room. I let the spotlight dim. Because I needed you to hear the whisper that only gets noticed in stillness. I let you feel the ache of space so that you would finally turn your eyes fully toward me and realize I never left. That ache you felt, it wasn't evidence of abandonment. It was a call to deeper encounter. The loneliness wasn't empty, it was sacred ground. It was me, clearing the cluttered corridors of your soul so my voice could find you undisturbed. You were never alone. I was always there. You just didn't recognize the gift hidden inside the ache. And now, as you step forward, you're starting to realize that something shifted in the solitude. Your heart no longer chases what once distracted it. Your identity no longer depends on being seen by the crowd. You've learned how to sit with silence and let it speak truth. You've learned how to embrace stillness without rushing to escape it. That's growth. That's transformation. That's intimacy. And because of that internal shift, I can now trust you with a kind of external expansion that won't distort your purpose. What I'm releasing in this season won't seduce your attention away from me, because you've already learned the value of my nearness. You've discovered that fulfillment isn't found in constant noise. It's found in communion. And now, I'm going to send people into your life who recognize the strength you cultivated in silence. They won't drain you. They won't compete with your calling. They will distract you from your direction. They'll come as confirmation, not confusion. They'll be aligned, not assigned by your insecurity. You won't have to chase after them. They'll arrive in sync with my timing, carrying peace instead of pressure. But even as they come, your foundation will remain unshaken because you've already learned how to be complete in me first. That's what the loneliness accomplished. It broke the illusion that you were incomplete. It rewired your dependence. It recalibrated your vision. And now, when I add to your life, it won't feel like survival. It will feel like overflow. You're no longer grasping for fragments of connection. You're overflowing with fullness that attracts what's holy. So don't resent the silence that shaped you. Don't regret the room I emptied. That space became the sanctuary where I rewrote your definition of worth. That pause became the pathway to deeper clarity. And that solitude was never wasted. It was sacred, and it was necessary. What grew in that hidden place is now bearing fruit, and nothing can uproot it. You are anchored, not because of attention you receive, but because of the truth you now know, that I was enough then, I am enough now, and I will remain your source forever. The timing of this very moment is not random. You didn't stumble here by accident. This exact hour was carved into eternity before you ever took your first breath. I scheduled this encounter before you even knew what to ask for. Long before your prayers formed into words, I had already whispered secrets of purpose into your spirit. You didn't always recognize them as mine. They showed up as unshakable desires, persistent dreams, unexplainable burdens for something greater. Others may have overlooked your stirring. Some may have laughed when you tried to articulate what you felt deep inside. But I never laughed. I never dismissed you. I was the one planting those quiet glimpses of the future inside your heart, knowing that one day they would grow roots strong enough to carry my intention. While the world went on in noise and motion, I was leaning in close to the tender places of your soul, speaking things that only your spirit could interpret. And though you didn't always understand what I meant, you held on to the feeling. You held on to the hope. You held on to the sense that something unseen was drawing you toward more. And now, you're standing in it. The fulfillment wasn't delayed. It was developing. And today marks a shift. Today is evidence that I don't forget what I speak in secret. I don't abandon the seeds I bury in faith. What I whispered in the dark, I now declare in the light. This unveiling wasn't born from pressure. It was born from promise. A promise that has been growing quietly, nourished by your trust, watered by your tears, and matured by your obedience. You didn't even realize how much you were being prepared. You just kept following me, even when you didn't know where the road would lead. You stayed open when others shut down. You kept believing when the vision felt blurry. You held space for hope in a world that kept demanding proof. That's why today matters. Because this moment is not the result of striving, it's the result of alignment. The invisible pieces that felt disconnected are now falling together like a divine mosaic, revealing beauty you couldn't predict. What once felt like scattered fragments are now becoming a picture of grace too precise to be accidental. I don't work in coincidence. I operate in completion. And what I'm doing right now in your life is not sudden. It's sacred. You've reached a divine intersection where everything I ever whispered, even the parts you forgot, are waking up again. You'll begin to see confirmations in places you never expected. The very situations that once brought confusion will now carry clarity. The same environments that used to feel like detours will now reflect purpose. What you once walked through blindfolded, You will now revisit with insight. And you will know I was with you the whole time. Not a moment was random. Not a season was wasted. Not a prayer was ignored. Every delay had reason. Every silence had meaning. Every closed door was part of my architecture. And now I'm showing you what I was building when you thought nothing was moving. Today is the doorway. The unveiling. The divine announcement that I am faithful not only to speak, but to finish. The whispers of yesterday are becoming declarations today. The hidden words are becoming public works. You no longer have to wonder if you imagined it. You no longer have to keep those dreams locked in secrecy. What I planted in the quiet is being birthed in power. This is not the end. This is the unfolding. And child, from this moment forward, you'll begin to live not from doubt, but from realization. You'll wake up remembering what I said, and walk out what I meant. The pause you endured is now being replaced by movement that cannot be slowed. The stillness you grew familiar with is making room for acceleration that comes from my own hand. You've lingered long in the shadows while others passed by, while seasons changed without clear indication of your own unfolding. You stood in line, not with entitlement, but with patience. You've watched, you've prayed, you've kept your hands open even when it felt like nothing was being placed in them. But now, the time has arrived. The signal has shifted. The waiting has done its full work, and the release has begun. I'm not giving you leftovers or recycled portions. I'm bringing forth something entirely new, something untouched by human imagination. What I've prepared was not formed by opinions, nor shaped by trends. It has not been previewed in the natural world because it was authored in the realm of the spirit, and it has your name carved into its foundation. I'm opening doors that don't exist in the systems of man. I'm creating pathways where no blueprint ever existed. You will not have to duplicate what others did. You will walk in something unprecedented. And child, it's not just about receiving something. It's about becoming someone. Someone who carries proof of my creativity. Someone who reflects possibilities others have never considered. Someone who embodies what it means to be favored beyond formula, beyond method, beyond understanding. You've been faithful in the ordinary, and now you'll see the extraordinary. Not because you demanded it, but because you remained rooted while the wind tried to move you. You didn't chase noise. You followed my voice. And now, that obedience is calling forth resources from dimensions you haven't touched yet. Ideas, relationships, platforms, opportunities, things you didn't even think to ask for, are beginning to align around you. They've been waiting for this moment just as you have, but what you didn't know is that I was arranging both the blessing and the timing in a way that neither would damage the other. I'm not just delivering what you imagined, I'm going far beyond it. Because my word declares that no eye has seen, and no ear has heard, and I intend to make your life the living fulfillment of that very truth. This won't look familiar. This won't feel like repetition. It will feel like divine expansion, fresh oil, new territory. But you'll recognize it because your spirit has long been prepared, even when your mind didn't yet have the language. A dream that wouldn't go away. A recurring sense of more that stayed buried beneath your routine. That was me. I was breathing on something dormant, keeping the vision alive beneath the surface while I cultivated the environment for its full arrival. And now, even before others understand what's happening, you will feel it in your bones. The awakening, the weight, the glory. You'll begin to move differently, speak differently, think differently. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because revelation is becoming reality. This is not the season to explain yourself to those who didn't walk through your wilderness. This is not the time to defend the magnitude of what I'm doing to those who only saw your waiting, not your warfare. Let me speak for you through what I perform. Let me reveal the truth through what I bring into manifestation. Those who once overlooked you will begin to wonder how you arrived where you are, and you will simply point to me. Not to your strategy, not to your effort, but to your surrender. Because that's what unlocked it. You said yes when it was costly, You said yes when no applause followed. You said yes in the middle of silence. And now I'm saying yes to you, in the form of things beyond comprehension. This is the hour when the unseen becomes undeniable. Watch, my child. Watch what happens next. There are places within you that no one else has ever touched. Wounds so deep you stop trying to explain them. Questions so heavy you buried them beneath busy days and quiet nights. But I saw every tear that never fell. I felt every ache you tried to ignore. The burdens you carried behind your eyes, behind your smile, behind your silence. They've never been invisible to me. You weren't being dramatic. You weren't weak. You were simply overwhelmed by what you were never meant to carry alone. And while the world kept moving, while others kept assuming you were fine, I was already preparing the bomb that would mend what nothing else could reach. What's coming isn't just a change of circumstance. It's a holy repair of everything that was slowly breaking inside of you. I'm not only restoring opportunities, I'm healing layers of you that pain tried to rewrite. Pain tried to convince you that hope was dangerous. Pain tried to whisper that believing again would only lead to more heartbreak. But I am stepping in to shatter those lies. You're not being asked to relive your trauma. You're being invited to live beyond it. You won't have to pretend anymore. What I'm sending is so drenched in my love, so soaked in my goodness, that it will begin to uncoil the grief that has been hiding in your chest for too long. And it won't come with pressure. It won't come with force. It will come with gentleness. Like breath. Like light. Like something familiar that you forgot you needed. You'll be standing in the middle of a moment, and healing will arrive. Unannounced, unstoppable. It will find you in the ordinary. It will touch memories you haven't spoken of in years. It will begin rewriting how you see yourself, how you see the past, how you see me. Because I'm not just coming to lift you into promise. I'm coming to heal the places where disappointment still echoes. The joy I'm bringing will not have sorrow mixed in. It will not be a shallow covering. It will be a deep transformation, the kind that shifts the way you breathe, the way you pray, the way you hope. The healing won't require performance. You won't have to earn it. You won't have to chase it. It will come because I love you, because I have seen enough, because I am ready to make whole what you learned to live with broken. You survived with cracks in your heart. You kept going with pieces missing. You adjusted to the emptiness like it was normal. But I never called you to remain fractured. I never intended for you to believe that numbness was strength. True strength is allowing me to step in and make you soft again. Not fragile, soft. Able to feel. Able to trust. Able to receive without fear of being let down. I know that sounds impossible, but nothing is beyond my reach. Not even what's been buried. Especially what's been buried. You see, I specialize in resurrection, and not just of dreams but of hearts. The places that have gone silent inside you. I'm awakening them again. Not recklessly but with wisdom. Not all at once but perfectly timed. You won't be triggered, you'll be transformed. The things that used to haunt you will lose their grip. The memories that used to sting will begin to shimmer with redemption. I'm not erasing your story. I'm healing how you carry it. You'll look back and see the fingerprints of grace even in your hardest seasons. You'll stop asking, why wasn't anyone there? Because you will realize I was there, and I still am. You'll stop wondering, will I ever feel whole again? Because I'm making it happen right now, piece by piece, breath by breath. What's coming is not just a solution, it's a restoration. And as it begins to flow, you won't have to chase it. You'll only have to stay open. You'll only have to receive. Let me do what only I can do. The healing has already begun. The season of tears did not go unnoticed. I watched as you laid your head down, trying to convince yourself that it was just a bad day. But inside, your soul was unraveling. You wept quietly, not because you lacked faith, but because your heart had been stretched past what you thought it could survive. And yet, you kept showing up. You didn't let the weeping consume your worship. You didn't allow the sorrow to steal your surrender. You pressed forward, holding my name close like a shield, even when nothing around you looked like progress. And now, I declare this over your life with unshakable authority. The weeping has reached its limit, and I am turning it into wonder. Not temporary relief, not partial recovery, but wonder so pure, so personal, that it will silence every voice that ever said you were forgotten. You are not being patched up. You are being transformed. This shift cannot be undone. What I am doing now is irreversible. The sorrow that once visited you like a daily shadow is being uprooted at the source. I'm not putting joy on top of pain. I'm removing the residue of the old season entirely. The places where grief camp out in your mind, where weariness carved grooves into your hope, those very places are becoming holy ground. You will begin to feel awe again. You will look at your life and be astonished, not confused. You will wake up without the heaviness that used to greet you first. Wonder is returning, and it's not dependent on circumstances. It's anchored in my nearness. The shift is not emotional, it's foundational. I am building a joy that doesn't need external validation to remain. I am constructing peace that flows even when nothing makes sense. This wonder will not fade. It will grow. It will multiply. It will become a language you speak without effort, a natural response to the goodness that is now being poured out over you without measure. And make no mistake, no one can interfere with this release. It's not theirs to manage. They didn't initiate it, so they cannot interrupt it. What I'm giving you now bypasses the limitations others placed on you. No opinion, no delay, no past mistake has the authority to halt what I've already set in motion. You've been approved in heaven, and the evidence is about to flood your days with clarity. You will feel it in places you didn't expect. In the small, in the mundane, in the daily rhythms, wonder will interrupt your routine like light pouring through blinds in the early morning. And when it comes, don't question it. Don't brace yourself for the loss of it. It's not going away. This isn't a glimpse. It's a beginning. You've sown with tears, and now you will reap with songs. You've bowed in private, and now you'll dance in the open. Not for performance, not for applause, but because your soul will no longer carry sorrow as its default setting. I'm rewriting your internal atmosphere. I'm adjusting your frequency. Where mourning used to occupy space, amazement will now take root. Even your breath will feel different. Even your steps will shift. This is more than a season change. It's a spiritual overhaul. And as the wonder begins to fill the places where despair used to linger, you'll realize something deeply sacred. I never wasted your tears. I caught everyone. I planted them. And now, they are blooming into beauty no one can claim credit for but me. You are not moving into temporary relief. You are entering sustained wonder. It will not flicker. It will not retreat. It has been ordered, secured, and sealed. And what I've begun, I will bring to completion. And nothing, and no one can reverse it. There were moments when the silence of others felt louder than their words, when their absence echoed through your soul like a verdict you didn't deserve. They didn't say it aloud, but you felt it. The disbelief in their eyes, the subtle dismissals, the way they never quite expected anything extraordinary to come through you. Some doubted not because they were evil, but because they couldn't perceive what I was shaping in the unseen. Others looked at your process and misjudged your potential. They measured your value by what they could see, unaware that I was forming something sacred beneath the surface. And yes, some dismissed you intentionally. They didn't believe your prayers held power. They assumed your obedience was naive. They wrote you off before the story even began. But I've kept record, not of their words but of your response. You never retaliated. You didn't let bitterness take root. You brought your ache to me instead of building walls around your heart. And because of that posture, I'm raising you up in a way that no one will be able to deny. Not for revenge but for revelation. Not to prove yourself right, but to prove that I am faithful. I will not exalt you in pride, I will establish you in purpose. I'm going to allow the very ones who counted you out to witness the fulfillment of what I placed within you. They will see doors open that no one but I could unlock. They will watch provision arrive from directions they never considered. They will hear the sound of your laughter in places where sorrow once echoed. They'll try to understand it, but they won't be able to explain it, because what I'm doing doesn't fit their framework. This isn't about impressing people. This is about displaying my glory through a life that refused to quit. You didn't just survive. You surrendered. You didn't retaliate. You released. You didn't seek revenge. You sought me. And now I'm moving you forward, not in arrogance, but in undeniable evidence of my hand. The rise won't be loud. It won't be theatrical. It will be steady. It will be certain. It will be the kind of rise that makes people pause, not because you demand their attention, but because my presence on your life will become unmistakable. They will see how you carry peace in places they used to see you panic. They'll observe how you speak with weight in conversations where you once stayed silent. They'll notice the strength in your steps, the clarity in your eyes, the joy that no longer wavers with circumstances. This is not a return to who you were. This is an unveiling of who you've always been in me. I am the one lifting you. I am the one making space for your voice. I am the one opening the doors they tried to close with their doubt. And as I do, remember this: do not gloat. Do not flaunt. Do not seek validation from those who misunderstood your process. Keep your heart soft. Let your posture remain humble. Because your rise is not a weapon, it's a witness. It's not for status, it's for story. A story that will speak to others still buried beneath the weight of dismissal. A story that will remind them it's not over just because people overlook you. Your life will be the proof that I honor the hidden, that I defend the faithful, that I reward those who choose me when it's hardest. I will make sure they see, not to shame them, but to invite them, to show them what I can do with a yielded heart. And while they watch, you'll keep walking, not distracted, not bitter, not needing approval. Just free. Just whole. Just walking in the fullness of what I planned from the beginning, and rising, always rising, for my glory alone. What's unfolding before you is not temporary. It isn't circumstantial, fragile. We're subject to external control. This isn't the kind of opportunity that depends on public opinion or shifting emotions. The door I am opening in your life is permanent because I forged it with my own authority. It's not attached to a deadline, and it's not hanging on a thread of human agreement. I didn't consult anyone before writing this chapter. I authored it in the quiet long before you were ready to walk through it. There were other doors. Yes, some opened briefly and then slammed shut. Some seemed promising, only to disappoint. But those weren't the ones I ordained. They were only training spaces to teach you discernment, to show you the difference between imitation and inheritance. But this door, this is the real one. This is the one your soul hath been sensing but couldn't describe. This is the one that doesn't require you to shrink yourself to fit. You won't have to force it open. You won't have to convince anyone to let you through. Because I've already unlocked it, and what I unlock, no hand can relock. No timeline can delay what I have scheduled. No setback can erase what I have commanded. I've seen how fear tried to talk you out of expecting anything. It whispered lies, saying you missed your moment, saying too much time had passed, saying you weren't ready or worthy or equipped. But I've silenced that voice now. I've stepped between you and everything that tried to intimidate you. This door doesn't tremble at fear. It was built with purpose, sealed with my word, and secured by my presence. And child, I didn't just open this for you. I built it around you. The frame of it fits the shape of your growth. The threshold matches the depth of your surrender. You didn't earn it by striving. You were shaped for it by fire, by obedience, by hidden refinement that no one else applauded. And now, you don't need anyone to introduce you to what I'm about to reveal. You've been introduced already, in secret, in tears, in prayers when no one was listening. I was listening. I was writing. I was forming what now stands before you as an open door that will not close. Not when critics rise. Not when doubt flares. Not when storms threaten. It cannot be shut because it wasn't opened through chance. It was established through covenant. And covenant cannot be broken by circumstance. Walk through it now, not with hesitation, but with confidence. Walk like someone who belongs. Not because of arrogance, but because of alignment. You don't have to prove anything. The door itself is the proof. Its opening confirms that you've crossed a threshold in the spirit, one that the enemy hoped you'd never survive long enough to see. What you did. You're here. You're ready. And everything that tried to stop you will now witness what obedience births when faith refuses to quit. What's waiting on the other side isn't just a new season. It's a new assignment, a deeper realm of peace, a fuller unveiling of what I've always placed inside you. You don't have to fear the unknown. You've already walked with me through too many battles to question whether I'll lead you through this next one. I am going before you, and I am standing behind you. I am beside you, and I am within you. The door is open, not a crack, not barely, but wide. And no force in this world or the next can reverse what I have released. Move forward now, because what I have prepared won't wait forever. Not out of urgency, but out of fullness. The time is right, the oil is ready, and I'm standing on the other side, welcoming you into everything that has always had your name written upon it. There were seasons where you questioned why certain opportunities suddenly vanished, why relationships dissolved just as they began to feel secure, why invitations dried up, why plans you built carefully collapsed without warning. You didn't just grieve the loss. You wondered if you had misheard me entirely. But I never abandoned you to confusion. I was guarding you from pathways that would have taken you far from what I ordained. I knew what you couldn't see. I saw the entanglements ahead, the distractions masked as destiny, the hidden traps beneath, glittering options. So I intervened. Quietly, swiftly, intentionally. I closed what you thought would open, not to punish you, but to preserve what was truly yours. Every door that shut in your face was a directional sign written by my hand. I didn't explain it at the time because I wanted your trust to mature beyond needing visible outcomes. And now, as things begin to unfold, you're starting to realize those rejections weren't setbacks, they were safeguards. I rerouted you, not away from favor, but toward the exact intersection of fulfillment and alignment. This promise, the one you're just beginning to step into, is not a consolation prize. It's not what was left over. It is the inheritance I always intended to deliver, at the exact time your spirit was capable of carrying its weight. You may have thought you were losing, but you were being led. You weren't wandering. You were being guided through terrain that demanded a deeper trust than convenience ever could. I let you stand before doors that didn't open, not because I was cruel, but because I was steering you away from places that could not hold the magnitude of what I was building inside you. And now that you're arriving at what's real, at what was written for you before time began, you will understand why the detours were never wrong turns. They were precision shifts, orchestrated to keep your pace aligned with my blueprint. I wasn't letting you fall behind. I was helping you avoid the things that would have looked right but ended wrong. Every reroute was protection. Every closed door was direction. And every season of confusion was an invitation to lean into my clarity. You didn't miss it, child. You made it. Not by accident. Not by luck. But by being willing to let go of what you thought you needed, so I could give you what I always knew you were made for. And now, I am opening a space where your calling fits without compromise, where your voice isn't silenced, where your growth isn't stunted, where your presence isn't merely tolerated, but divinely appointed. This is the room I prepared for you, not the one you tried to force, but the one I formed while you kept walking in faith. The doors that closed were loud, but this promise will speak louder. This will be the moment where you realize I was never delaying to hurt you. I was preserving something sacred until your spirit was ready to hold it with reverence. And now, every place that turned you away will become a faint echo behind the roar of what's arriving. You won't need to revisit old rooms to prove anything. You won't need to explain where you've been. You'll simply live, fully, freely, boldly, in the promise that was never out of reach, just waiting for your maturity to match its measure. You're not stepping into what's convenient. You're stepping into what's holy. And from this moment forward, every door that opens will carry my mark. Every space you enter will confirm my hand. And you will no longer grieve what didn't happen, because what is happening now is greater than what you thought you lost. You came close to letting go, not because you lacked faith, but because the weight of waiting made it hard to breathe. You didn't stop believing in me, but you questioned whether you heard me right. You doubted not my power, but your place in the promise. And still, you stayed. You stayed when the delay felt endless. You stayed when hope felt dangerous. You stayed when letting go would have been easier than continuing to carry the vision. And now, what once felt impossible, the very thing you almost laid to rest, is coming alive before your eyes. But not as it once was. I'm not reviving an old version of what you prayed for. I'm presenting something complete, something mature, something whole, free from the fear, striving, and sorrow that used to accompany your expectations. What I'm releasing now doesn't come wrapped in anxiety. It won't require your exhaustion to maintain. You won't have to compromise your peace to protect it. This blessing is arriving with no strings attached, no catch hidden beneath the surface. It is pure. It is purposeful. It is preserved. And it is proof that I honor not only the request, but the persistence it took for you to keep asking. I know what it cost you. I saw the nights you almost let go. I heard the way your prayers changed, from bold declarations to whispered confessions of fatigue. I felt your hands trembling as you tried to hold on to a promise that felt like it was slipping through your fingers. But I was never far. Even when you stopped speaking it out loud, I was listening to the groanings of your heart. And I never planned to leave you in that uncertainty forever. I let the vision press you, not to crush you but to shape you. I allowed the delay to refine your capacity, not to punish your hope. And now, because you refused to quit, even when quitting looked reasonable, I'm delivering what only the surrendered can receive. You will not have to force this into place. You will not have to keep proving you're worthy of it. I am the one releasing it, and I give without guilt. I don't attach aim to my miracles. I don't dangle blessings just out of reach to test your strength. When I give in fullness. I give in peace. I give in love that doesn't make you afraid to lose what I place in your care. And child, what you're about to hold was never lost. It was being made ready. I didn't forget. I didn't change my mind. I simply waited until the timing could protect the promise, until your heart could enjoy it without fear of it slipping away again. And now it's here. Not because you forced it, not because you earned it, but because you waited with your heart still turned toward me, even when the answers were slow to arrive. What once drained you will now refresh you. What once made you anxious will now bring you into alignment. What once felt distant will now live with you, walk with you, grow with you. There will be no sorrow hidden in the corners of this miracle. It won't feel like you traded pieces of yourself to get here. It won't resemble the struggle that birthed it. It will be new. And every time you touch it, every time you see the fruit of what once felt forgotten, you will be reminded that I do not tease, I do not torment, and I do not delay without purpose. This is not restitution alone. It is reward. It is restoration. It is evidence that I am not only able but willing to fulfill every word I spoke. So receive it now, not with tension but with joy. You've carried long enough. Now you can begin to taste the sweetness of what's been prepared, and you'll never have to question whether it's too good to be true, because this time, it's me. And I never add sorrow to what I bless for too long. You've carried the residue of lies whispered to you in vulnerable moments, lies that tried to convince you that you were inadequate. unqualified, unwanted, overlooked. You heard it from people who didn't understand your worth, sometimes even from your own thoughts when weariness crept in. That voice has followed you, not loudly, but consistently, trying to undermine what I've been building in secret. It questioned your every step, made you second-guess your place, distorted your confidence, and dulled your dreams. But today marks the turning of a divine page, and this new chapter will speak louder than those shadows ever could. I am writing something so evident, so undeniable, so holy through your life that every lying voice will be silenced not by argument, but by fulfillment. I am not countering the lies with more words, I am countering them with reality, with proof, with transformation so visible that even your past self would scarcely believe what I'm about to reveal. No more apologizing for your presence. No more shrinking to fit into spaces too small for your calling. No more rehearsing every flaw or failure before stepping forward. That old language doesn't belong in the new narrative I'm scripting through you. This chapter begins with clarity, with courage, with the understanding that I never needed you to be perfect, only willing. And you were. Even when you doubted yourself, you kept coming back. You kept seeking me, asking, knocking even with trembling hands and weary eyes. You kept walking forward even when the terrain felt uneven and your vision felt blurred. That persistence, that quiet yes, has become the ink with which I am now writing your breakthrough. And this breakthrough doesn't come with pressure to prove anything. It comes with the weight of truth. The kind that liberates you from every comparison that tried to convince you you were falling behind. The kind that dismantles every internal narrative that said you were too much or not enough. I'm removing the voice that told you to play it safe. I'm silencing the critic that disguised itself as caution. I'm confronting every fear that crept in as logic. You are not what they called you. You are not what your failure tried to make you believe. You are not what your broken season declared over you. You are mine, called, chosen, held, anointed, and being released. And in this chapter, your identity will no longer be something you question. It will be something you wear. Like armor. Like light. Like oxygen. Your steps will be marked with confidence not rooted in ego, but in clarity. The clarity that comes from knowing you are exactly where you're supposed to be, becoming exactly who I designed you to be. And those old voices, they will fade. Not because they no longer try, but because they will no longer hold power. Their language won't match the atmosphere I'm surrounding you with. Their tone won't penetrate the peace I'm releasing over your thoughts. And every time that familiar whisper tries to return, your life, your fruit, will testify on your behalf. What I do through you will speak louder than your explanation ever could. You won't need to defend your worth. You'll simply walk in it. You won't need to explain how you got here. You'll simply live here, in this new space, this God-authored chapter, where worth is not debated, but declared. Where destiny is not delayed, but activated. Where shame is not recycled, but broken once and for all. This isn't about pretending to be strong. It's about discovering that I've already made you resilient. This is the moment where heaven's narrative overrides every lie written in pain. The ink has dried on what was. The page has turned. And what comes next will make it undeniably clear. You were always more than enough. Because I was always within you, you assumed my quiet meant I had nothing more to say. But in reality, I was crafting something too powerful to be spoken prematurely. While you waited for words, I was forming outcomes. While you looked for signs, I was scripting a shift so personal that it couldn't be shared until it was complete. Silence, to you, felt like absence. But to me, it was a sacred space in which I put my pen to paper. I was not ignoring your cries. I was answering them in a language only time could interpret. Your tears weren't wasted in the void. They were ink I collected. Your prayers weren't forgotten in the silence. They were woven into the line I was about to reveal. I saw how you paused at every chapter of disappointment, thinking maybe that was the ending. But child, I never closed your book. I was just turning the page slowly, so you wouldn't miss the beauty of transition. I wasn't done with you. I never stopped writing. In fact, some of the most defining words I've placed upon your life were etched in the moments you thought I had gone quiet. The places where you heard nothing, those are the very places I now fill with fulfillment. You didn't know it. But the sentence that's about to emerge will not only shift your present, it will heal your history. I'm not revising your story to erase the hard parts. I'm redeeming it so that even the most broken moments are infused with purpose. That's the kind of author I am. I don't discard chapters you'd rather forget. I transform them into evidence that I was present all along. The pauses weren't the end. They were the space where I breathed deeper into your calling. Every time you waited with your heart still leaning in toward me, I added something weighty, something eternal, to your narrative. And now, that hidden paragraph, the one I wrote while your head was bowed and your voice grew quiet, is about to unfold. And when it does, nothing in your past will be able to define you anymore. The labels others tried to place on you will lose their meaning. The memories that once told you who you were will be replaced by truth that flows from my heart, not from pain. You won't be known by what you went through, you'll be known by what I brought out of it. And it will be evident. This isn't a subtle change. It's a divine edit, not to hide the struggle, but to reveal the strength that was being formed within it. I've written something in this next line that unlocks doors you didn't even know were closed. A phrase that shifts the spiritual climate around your name. A moment that causes everything stagnant to begin moving again. And you won't have to announce it. You won't have to convince anyone it's real. The clarity, the peace, the acceleration, it will speak for itself. And child, this is only the beginning of what I've been holding back until now. There's more I've written. More you haven't yet seen. And the reason I'm releasing it now is because your heart has finally been prepared to receive it without fear, without questioning, without hesitation. I waited for the moment you could read my words without filtering them through old wounds. And now, that moment has arrived. This is not just another phase. It's the divine unveiling of the chapter I began before you even knew how to hope for more. And as it begins to unfold, you'll realize why I didn't rush the silence. You will begin to see why I allowed the quiet to stretch so long, because what I'm writing now has the power to echo through generations. This is more than restoration. This is the beginning of your reintroduction. And I am the one holding the pen. There's a difference between being overlooked by people and being intentionally hidden by me. What looked like exclusion was actually insulation. What felt like being left behind was a shield I wrapped around you to guard you from exposure too soon. I never removed you from sight to punish you, I covered you to prepare you. You wanted movement, visibility, recognition, but I knew what your spirit needed was depth, strength, and purity. So I kept you close to me, away from the noise, away from the spotlight, away from the stage that would have celebrated a version of you that wasn't fully formed yet. And while others surged forward, while opportunities bypassed your name, while circles closed without your invitation, I was taking my time with you. You thought you were forgotten. You whispered through tears, did I miss it? Did I do something wrong? But not once did I turn my face from you. You were not buried. You were planted. And growth in the dark is not a curse. It's a holy process. The roots I allowed to go deep during that hidden season will now anchor you as I begin to bring you forward. You don't have to resent the time you spent out of view. That was the place where your identity became unshakable. That was where you learned to hear me without applause, where you learned to trust me when no one was watching, where you discovered that my presence is better than performance. I never designed you to bloom for attention. I designed you to carry weight for my glory. And that weight required solitude. That oil required pressing. That wisdom required stillness. So I placed you in the secret place, not to isolate you, but to refine you in an environment where your heart could expand without competition, where your motives could be purified without pressure, where your gift could be shaped without distortion. You didn't miss your moment. You were molded for this moment. And now, when I begin to unfold what I've prepared in you, you won't stumble under the spotlight. You won't crumble under criticism. You won't be shaken by comparison. Because the time in hiding taught you who you are beyond what others say. That's why it was necessary. I had to silence every voice that tried to define you before you heard mine clearly. I had to pull you out of environments that demanded your energy but never nurtured your soul. I had to let things dry up so you would stop drinking from shallow wells. And now, child, you're about to emerge, not as someone desperate to be seen, but as someone anchored in what I've shown you in secret. The unveiling will come, not because you forced it, but because the season has shifted. I've been watching. I've been waiting. And I've been working, not just around you, but within you. And the strength I cultivated in the quiet will now carry you in places that once intimidated you. Doors will open that you didn't knock on. Rooms will receive you that once seemed closed. And you will walk in with a calm they can't explain, because you know where your authority was born. Not in applause, not in title, but in hiding, in consecration, in surrender. And as you begin to move forward, remember this: you were never forgotten. Every breath you took in the dark was seen by me. Every tear you cried in solitude was sacred to me. And now the one who hid you is the one who reveals you. And no hand can stop what I have kept protected for such a time as this. Every tear, every ache, every unanswered moment of longing. It wasn't pointless. What you felt breaking you was actually birthing something greater within you. The pain didn't come to punish you. It came to prepare the space for a promise that couldn't arrive in a shallow heart. I never waste suffering. I never allow agony to settle into your life without extracting something sacred from it. The weight you endured wasn't meant to crush you. It was meant to expand your capacity to receive what I always intended to give. You were being stretched, not to hurt you, but to hold more of what I'm releasing now. An ache in your soul. It was the pressure of transformation, the signal that something holy was being conceived in the invisible, long before you would see it with your eyes. You didn't know it, but even in your grief, you were growing. Even in your disappointment, I was planting destiny. And now, what once felt like loss is about to bloom into purpose so undeniable. You'll realize why the path had to include so many tears. The promise I'm unfolding didn't come from comfort. It was birthed through travail, through perseverance, through nights when your breath caught in your chest and your strength felt gone. You kept walking when nothing made sense. You kept lifting your eyes when everything inside you wanted to quit. You didn't understand what I was doing, but you still didn't walk away. And that faith, that fierce clinging to me in the middle of your lowest valleys, became the soil where miracles now take root. This isn't a reward for surviving. It's a release that could only come after such a deep surrender. Because only those who have walked through fire without turning bitter can carry this kind of breakthrough. I needed your heart softened, not hardened. I needed your spirit tuned to my frequency, not shaped by fear. And so I allowed the pain, not to break you permanently, but to bend you toward dependence. I knew what I was forming in you would require more than casual faith. It would need the kind of trust that can only grow in the dark. And you let me do that work. You didn't resist the refining. You didn't fake strength. You let me become your strength. You learned to let go of the illusion of control and rest in the promise that I was writing something bigger than you could see. And now, the womb of that waiting is opening. You're about to hold what you carried silently for so long. Others will call it sudden, but you'll know the truth. It was forged through endurance, shaped by fire, grown through sacred silence. They will see the joy, but you will know the cost. They will admire the bloom, but you will remember the soil. This promise wasn't handed to you. It was labored through, in prayer, in obedience, in relentless hope. And that's why it will last. That's why no one will be able to take it from you. Because it didn't come from striving, it came from surrender. It wasn't manufactured, it was matured. And now that it's coming forth, it will be healthy. It will be whole. It will be protected. It will multiply. What you are about to walk into isn't just a new season. It's a manifestation of everything that once made you question if I heard you at all. I heard you. I saw it every pang, every night you collapsed in my presence with no words left. I was there, whispering strength into you, keeping the promise alive inside even when you forgot how to believe in it. And now, the fullness of time has come. The pain did not defeat you, it delivered you. And now, so gently yet so powerfully, the promise is being born. There were days where it felt like the shadows would swallow you whole, when every direction looked dim, and the weight inside your chest felt heavier than your words could ever describe. You didn't just walk through dark moments, you lived in them. You smiled when necessary, nodded when expected, but beneath it all, you wondered if the light would ever find you again. You questioned if your flame had gone out, if maybe this quiet fading was the new normal. But I never left you there. While you felt forgotten, I was standing at the edge of the darkness, holding the light that would not go out, not because you could see it, but because I never let it leave. That light wasn't dependent on your feelings. It was grounded in my nature. And now, I speak directly into the place where the heaviness once made its home. Come forth. Step out. Not just from the room, but from the identity the darkness tried to place on you. I'm calling you out of the silence, out of the hiding, out of the dimness that made you think you had no voice. You were never created to dwell in the shadows. I permitted the season of obscurity to protect you, not to define you. And now that the time has come, I'm not asking you to crawl toward the light. I'm calling you to walk out boldly. Not because you feel strong, but because I've placed strength inside you that outlived the darkest hour. This isn't just about stepping into a brighter place. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that were buried under discouragement, buried under pressure, buried under the false belief that you no longer mattered. The light I'm leading you into will not blind you. It will heal you. It will reveal who you are again. Not the version that fought to survive, the version that was shaped by me before the storm. I am reintroducing you to yourself, to your purpose, to your voice. You're not lost, you're emerging. The ground that tried to hold you down will now witness your rise. The weight that tried to silence your worship will now make way for your testimony. I am not simply pulling you out, I am establishing you. I am giving you footing in places that once felt like sinking sand. Where you stumbled, you will now stride. Where you hid, you will now speak. The light is not just shining on you, it is pouring from within you. That's what the darkness couldn't extinguish, the flame I protected in the secret. And now, that flame is growing. It will not flicker anymore. It will not hide. You are being brought out not for attention but for assignment. Not for display but for dominion. You've been entrusted with light, and now, I will cause it to reach places you never imagined. Those who once walked past you will notice the shift, not because you became louder, but because you became clearer. You're not the same. You carry light that exposes falsehood. You carry truth that unsettles deception. You carry peace that disturbs the chaos of the enemy. And wherever you go, the shadows will shrink, not because you shout, but because you shine. The light is not temporary. It's not seasonal. It's eternal. It's me, alive in you, glowing from your scars, rising from the ashes of your silent pain. And now, child, walk forward. Let the past stay buried. Let the grave clothes fall. You are not what the dark tried to convince you of. You are light bearer, truth carrier, hope releaser. This is not the end of your story. This is the emergence of your real beginning. And nothing can send you back into hiding again, even when your prayers felt like they were floating into empty space. I was there. When you laid awake in the middle of the night trying to figure out how everything unraveled, I was still present, closer than your breath, holding your frame together while your thoughts threatened to pull you apart. You didn't always feel me, and I know that. I know how you searched the silence for even the faintest echo of my presence, how you longed for reassurance, but felt surrounded by questions. But I need you to know this now with absolute certainty. I never stepped away. That once, while you thought I had gone quiet, I was working in places you couldn't see. Inside your heart, round your path, ahead of your every step. My nearness is not always recognized by feelings. It is proven through faithfulness. And if you look back now, with honest eyes and a softened heart, you'll see my fingerprints everywhere, in the strength that somehow returned when you had nothing left to give, and the calm that arrived when the storm should have overtaken you, and the opportunities you didn't expect and the dangers you didn't even know you avoided. I was active when you thought I was absent. I was building while you were breaking. I was shaping your future while you were questioning your past. The unveiling you are about to step into, the clarity, the alignment, the open space, the divine appointments. It didn't just appear. I prepared it. With great care, I arranged the details, structured the timing, softened the hearts involved, and cleared the ground. Nothing that is coming into your life now is random. It's all been shaped by my hand, waiting for the moment when you were strong enough to carry it and humble enough to recognize it came from me. I couldn't reveal it before. Not because you weren't worthy, you've always been mine. But because unveiling something too early creates pressure before there's preparation. You weren't being punished. You were being protected. Protected from ambition outpacing wisdom. Protected from carrying a weight your spirit hadn't yet stretched to support. Protected from distractions that dress themselves in opportunity. And now that the work inside you has taken root, now that your identity is no longer wrapped in what others say, I'm peeling back the veil. You're about to see what I've been orchestrating behind the scenes. What I whispered in fragments before is becoming visible in fullness. The puzzle pieces that didn't make sense are now snapping together with sudden clarity. The prayers you thought I overlooked, I was answering them in the language of timing. The delays weren't denial, they were design. And child, you're not just going to see the unveiling, you're going to be part of it. I'm not only revealing what I've done for you, I'm revealing who you've become through it. Others will see the result, but you will understand the process. You'll feel the depth of every step it took to arrive here. You'll know the hidden wrestlings, the quiet yeses, the surrendered moments that no one clapped for. And it will all make sense. The season that made you feel invisible was actually the season where I was planting you for impact that can't be ignored. And now, as this unveiling begins, walk with peace. You don't need to force it. You don't need to prove anything. The preparation was enough. The presence I've maintained with you through it all was enough. You're not arriving unready. You're stepping into what I've already finished. Let your shoulders relax. Let your spirit rise. The unveiling isn't just about what's new. It's about revealing the strength I formed while you thought you were just surviving. You were never alone. And now, the world will see what I've always known was within you. Don't misread this moment. What feels like an ending is actually a divine initiation. You're not being ushered away from purpose. You're being introduced to the part of your story that has waited the longest to unfold. I know it feels like you've been walking out of one thing after another, out of certain environments, out of former mindsets, out of relationships that once seemed essential. And as you've let go, there's been a subtle grief, a quiet wondering, was that it? Did I miss the real thing? But I'm telling you now, you haven't lost anything that was meant to remain. What has been removed was not subtracted from your life out of cruelty, but cleared away so that space could finally be made for the fullness of what I'm bringing. This moment is not closure, it's commencement. You've crossed through what felt like a final door only to discover that you're standing on the threshold of something so much larger, so much richer, so deeply aligned with what I spoke to you in the quiet, that you'll look back and understand why it had to begin here. You're not stepping into leftovers. You're not moving into survival mode. You're being handed the blueprint of the fulfillment I designed before you knew how to ask for it. What's ahead is not just a new season. It's the unlocking of the reason I kept you through the previous ones. You didn't endure just to tell survival stories. You were refined to carry influence, integrity, and insight. The waiting did more than stretch your patience. It molded your perspective. It stripped away illusions and opened your heart to what truly matters. You see more clearly now. You don't reach for what once distracted you. You walk slower, but with more certainty. And that's why this is the beginning, not the finish. Because now you're ready to walk with what you used to only dream about. I've orchestrated this transition not to reduce you, but to reveal the version of you that can be trusted with impact. The version that doesn't need applause to stay faithful. The version that doesn't panic when others walk away. The version that no longer serves from striving, but from stillness. What's coming next will not require you to chase. It will meet you where obedience has brought you. You don't need to run after opportunity. Opportunity is being drawn to the oil I've placed on your life. And you won't need to prove yourself. I've already validated you in the heavenlies. I've already declared your name in places you haven't yet stepped into. I've already prepared the room, and now I'm ushering you through the entrance. Not because you begged me to. Because I said it would happen, and I never lie. This is the beginning of promises kept, of prayers answered without compromise, of pathways made straight not by effort, but by grace. And yes, it may come with responsibility. But don't be afraid of the wait. You were formed free. You've been walking with me long enough to recognize the difference between burden and assignment. What I'm placing in your hands will not crush you. It will commission you. You will not labor under exhaustion. You will walk in pace with my spirit. You won't be building on your own. You will move with heavenly assistance. So take this moment not as the closing of what was, but the first page of what I have long been writing. Everything I spoke, in the whispers, in the visions, in the moments that made your heart burn, is now being drawn out of hiding. And from here forward, you'll realize, I never brought you this far just to let you settle. I brought you here to begin. There were moments when the pressure felt unbearable, when it seemed like everything stable around you was shattering faster than you could hold it together. The enemy came in with the intent to scatter your strength, fracture your faith, and dismantle your peace. He aimed at your confidence, struck at your identity, and whispered doubts into the hollow places where answers didn't seem to come. You felt the hit. You felt the tear. And for a time, it looked like the breaking might win. But what the enemy did account for was me. He didn't factor in my hand on your life, the one who never stopped guarding the pieces. While he tried to fragment you, I was quietly gathering the fragments and reshaping them into something indestructible. You see, the breaking wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your remaking. I didn't cause the harm, but I permitted the cracking because I knew what would emerge on the other side. I knew that what was about to be born from the rubble would carry more resilience, more purity, more clarity than what you had before. And now, even you are beginning to feel it. The difference in your step, the shift in your discernment, the stillness where anxiety once ruled. You no longer jump at the sound of opposition. You no longer flinch when doors close. You've been through the kind of fire that forged you, not destroyed you. The very pressure that tried to silence you made your voice clearer. The very force that tried to push you back gave you the momentum to move forward with greater purpose. What the enemy tried to use to bury you became the soil I used to grow you. You learned how to stand even when the floor gave way. You learned how to trust me not because of outcomes but because of presence. And now, what was meant to break you is the very evidence of your becoming. You don't look the same, and you're not supposed to. The scars are not shameful. They are sacred. They are proof that grace held you through every tear, that my hand never released you, even when your grip on hope grew weak. I used the breaking as a blueprint, not to leave you in pieces, but to reassemble you with stronger foundations, wiser insight, deeper love. You see, the enemy hoped to create confusion. I allowed it to uncover clarity. He brought chaos to disrupt your rhythm. I permitted it so I could establish your tempo on my terms. Every wound was intercepted by my purpose. Every plan he formed was outmaneuvered by my love. And now, You are not only standing, you are radiating. You carry a power that didn't come from comfort. You carry a depth that didn't come from ease. And that's why what I'm doing in your life next will have no explanation but me. It won't make sense to those who only saw your break.